All right, good morning, everybody. This is Norb Camp coming at you with another episode of Walk Talk. Today is Monday, and I'm very excited because the first time ever, I'm joined with my sister all the way from Spokane.
Hello.
This is my sister Monica, and the reason she's here today is because, as I mentioned in the title, my dad is getting released from the hospital today.
We hope.
Well, it's scheduled anyway, and unless something happens that changes the progress he's been on, he should be released sometime later this afternoon.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, it's almost 3 weeks. It would have been 3 weeks tomorrow, so we're just shy of 3 weeks in the hospital, and really 3.5 weeks since both my parents came down with COVID. So it's been a long time coming, but we're excited that this day is finally here. Not to jinx it or anything, but he sounds like he's really good, right?
Yeah.
We talked to him
Best
yesterday.
ever.
Best ever. We talked to him on the phone last night. Got a nice sponge bath. He's basically been without oxygen, both at rest and during some of his activities. So that's been the case for about the last couple days.
Yeah. 2 or 3 days.
So that's been really exciting. And he sounds like himself.
Yep.
Which he hadn't really sounded that way. I think occasionally he had that, like when he was resting, but then if he'd moved, he'd sound really tired.
Yep.
So this has been, really nice yesterday, sounding like the normal energy, full voice.
Yep.
Not sounding out of it or tired, and so it's been nice to hear the evolution of how this has gone from when I brought my dad into the hospital almost 3 weeks ago. I mean, he was barely conscious. He could barely keep his eyes open and sit up.
Yep.
And not really even able to communicate. And now being back to what feels like normal. So the only thing we don't know is physically what his condition will be, how strong he's going to be, if he's lost weight, how far can he walk on his own? Because I think everything he's done has been with the aid of a walker. So I don't think he's really walked on his own 2 feet for more than, really except to stand.
Yep.
But everything's been with some assistance. So that's why my sister's here. She's going to be helping out with that dad for the upcoming week as my mom tries to figure things out. And our goal this week, as we all know, in less than a week, 6 days is the Super Bowl. And I told my dad last night, I said, all right, Dad, here's the goal. Here's your motivation this week. I said, it would be really cool if you could find a way that come Sunday, we can go back to doing our Super Bowl viewing and watch that game together like old times. And one last game for the 2021 season. So, seeds been planted, and we'll see if we can make that happen. I think we can do it.
He's just going to be sitting. Able to walk 15 steps.
Yeah. So, it might take a while to get him from A to B, but it's okay. We'll get him there eventually. I mean, tomorrow is his weekly radio show, which he has been gone from, obviously. But I think he's got aspirations of maybe even go do that. If we can do that, we can certainly do the Super Bowl in 5 more days.
He only has to sit and walk like 5 steps.
Right. But once he's sitting, then he's good. So I'm pretty optimistic that we can make all that stuff happen. So we'll see how that all goes. But it's still, from everything, all the people we've talked to, it's still going to be a while before he gets to really normal, where just like with my mom, she got back from her broken leg surgery, and my sister was here as well for that, but it took her a good couple months, right? So maybe 3 to fully get to a point where she was able to do stuff like just complete walk, like dance, drive, ballroom dancing. Actually,
that's my determining factor.
Yeah. Because I got the video the first time of them dancing when they had I think it was late December, or was it early January? I think it was late December. And they had a get together at one of the social groups who hadn't had a get together in a couple of years. And We got up there on the dance floor, and it was a great moment.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are having to start all over again. This time with my dad for different circumstances, different approach, but it's kind of the same thing they got to do. Dad's got to just stick to the workout, which we're going to find out specifically what the physical therapist has in store in terms of what he needs to do for his routine for getting back. And once he does, my sister's good at doing the firm but gentle approach. We're going to go to the trailers right over here.
I just follow the directions, the PT's directions.
Right. So, I don't know, how's it been for you as far as from afar, kind of just watching this thing unfold?
Oh gosh. It has definitely had its ups and downs, for sure. It's definitely scary a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
When we couldn't seem to make sure Dad was stable. That was probably the scariest.
Right.
But also the fact that Dad's voice even seemed so not himself and so shaky and out of breath. So this is a really big day today because that was really hard.
Right.
We were so worried, had to pray a lot that Dad would make a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
And prayerfully he'll fully recover.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it's not the end of the road because it's just the end of this chapter,
Yeah.
getting out of the hospital, but the next one's really longer than what he's been through.
Yeah.
He'll just get to do it from home. But I think it's like anyone recovering from any injury. You hear about people who get ACL surgeries and all that, and it's the surgery's quick. Getting out of the hospital is pretty fast. But it's that year of recoup and rehab to get it back to where it once was. And
the
some
thing
people
is, our
do it,
dad is 82 years old.
Right.
He's not some young punk.
Right, exactly. Mom was able to do it, but it's a different recovery challenge because in Mom's case, the rest of her body was fine. She just had a really bad, pain in the leg. Once the pain went away, I think she was able to start getting into it aggressively. In my dad's case, there's not so much pain as it is just weakness.
Yeah, just from
and
being
endurance.
bedridden for almost a month.
I know, I'm still trying to imagine that. Can you imagine being in bed maybe 95% of the time for almost a month?
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be, just, trying to get up and do something, you'd feel so lethargic and weak.
You lose all your muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, little
and
things.
the fact that he wasn't really eating because he could not swallow very well.
Right.
That made me nervous.
But he did say, ever since my mom dropped off some homemade food and some get well cards, I feel like after that, his appetite just got better. So even the hospital food, he was able to eat it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe Mom's cooking kick-started his ability to eat better. But it did seem like after that, things really kind of turned positive. So I don't know, all the more reason why we feel like there's something about, besides how you feel, but I think the environment that you're in does have an effect on your mindset. And I think just even that small taste of home maybe was just a little bit of an extra nudge. And we're hoping that Dad just being at home and being around familiar surroundings, have my mom around, my sister and me, and it's just family around to see him, and then being able to work on his rehab in that, the comfort of home and not amongst strangers in a sterile place like the hospital. So so it's going to definitely be a road, and we've heard different stories of people in similar situations who've had varying degrees of success of that recuperation. Some who have fully recovered back to where they were, and others who didn't quite get fully back to mobility. They maybe needed the aid of some kind of a cane or walking device. Our goal, though, is for him to get back, like my mom, to get back to full 100% recovery, back to where they were square one before this all started. Yep. So that's the goal, and the good thing is Dad's pretty good in shape, before this. So he didn't have a ton of things working against him physically. So that'll hopefully make it to where his at least odds are I think, in his favor.
Yeah.
We've been pretty lucky to have two parents who, one in their 80s, and they're pretty, not just independent, but really able to do whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean,
Can still travel.
They've helped us a lot.
Yeah. My dad still comes over and, helps me fix things around the house and stuff like that. So that's the thing about Dad. I'm sure what's killing him is our dad's the kind, except when it comes to watching movies and football together, you won't find him sitting around much, unless he's on his computer working on something. But if he's not busy doing something mentally, because he's got a show to get ready for, or whatever thing he's involved in, he likes to stay pretty busy physically.
Yep.
So to go from that to a complete stop, I know had to have been pretty tough mentally for him. And he said, I remember Dad was talking about in one of our conversations, he said he would have sometimes weird dreams or images when he would just be laying there about people, sometimes people from the past who he felt like they were in the room. It was a little kind of creepy. But, he said he'd had visions that he hadn't really had before this. And I was asking more about that when we see him.
Yeah.
But it was interesting just hearing his description of that. But I think also when you've got so much time, your brain does go to different places because it's not your usual type of thing.
Yep.
So as far as us, just the two of us, we have a small family. It's just my sister and me, no other brothers and sisters. So growing up, I always had to turn to you, the older sister, for whether it's homework help or if I had anything I was going through, if I couldn't feel like I could talk to our parents about it, which often there were, because when you're kids, you just don't talk to your parents about everything. But my sister was always the one kind of giving me advice, still does, still giving me life tips along the way, whether it's trying to keep the house clean or whatever, kids ready for college and all that stuff. So I was curious. So now you're at a point where all the kids are out of the house. One's completely on her own, working world. Well, actually, two of them. Two of them graduated from college, and the other one just started college this year. But I'm just curious. So looking back now, in terms of if you had do-overs, or if I knew what I know now and could go rewind the beginning, do you have much stuff that you would have done differently?
I'm sure there's a bunch. You should have warned me about the questions so I would have my answer ready.
Well, you can chew on it even if you don't have it ready.
Yeah. Well, one thing I do know is you never stop being a mom. So it doesn't matter if someday they're 50 and I might be 75. We still will always care deeply for our kids.
Right.
And of course, now I pray about who they marry someday. And hopefully I would love to see them have children. I would love to be a grandmother someday. So, it's hard work when your kids are really little.
Yeah.
But you can control their whole world at that time. And then you spend the rest of their lives learning how to train them and let them go.
Right.
And that's not easy for most of us American parents. We have a hard time doing that.
The letting go or the training part?
Both. Train them for the real world and letting them go. Letting them fall flat on their face, because we don't want them to fall flat on their face. But sometimes they have to learn.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I definitely feel like we're guilty of that sometimes. Doing too much for our kids. You start doing it, you're feeding them, you're changing them, you're doing all that stuff. And then you slowly try to wean away from it. But sometimes old habits are hard to break,
Yeah, as my friend Kathy would say, when she had boys, she thought of herself as training them to be great husbands and fathers someday. And I thought, oh yeah. And then with my daughter, it's like, I need to think about her being a responsible adult someday, teaching and training her so that she can be a great wife. Because so many times, especially when they're teens, we want to protect them from everything.
Right.
And a lot of times we just do them a disservice.
Right.
Because it's best for them to fall flat on their faces while they're still under our roof than for them to go out on their own and have to do it maybe even worse, where there's no safety net to catch them when they fall.
That's true.
So, something to think about.
Yeah, I was telling you about this. Some of you may know this. I know there's people in here who are like my kids' age, and then there's some who are parents here, and some in between. But this day and age, you know, we live in a world where we hear so much scary news out there, right? Of things happening to people, you know, accidents, abductions, you know, these things. And so I don't know if they're really on the rise or we're just hearing about them more because we have instant access to the scariest news out there from multiple feeds.
Yep.
But it definitely is different from back in the day when you and I were kids, because our parents didn't know where we were half the time.
Yep.
And they couldn't call us.
Phones.
We didn't have, we didn't have phones. We just had to, be home by dark.
Yep.
But everything in between is like, just don't do anything dumb. Don't hurt yourself. But but everything was different then. We didn't have airbags. We didn't have seatbelts in our station wagon. Didn't work because they had gum inside. They got stuck together permanently, so we didn't put them on. We'd throw 6 kids in the back of the station wagon, no kind of protection whatsoever, and we lived to tell about it. But now it's everybody knows where everybody is almost constantly. At least they check in, and now with an app like the 360 app, which we've used, you can watch them every step of the way, which it's not meant to really spy on the kids as it is just to know that if Sophie's driving off to practice, I can know that she got there and I don't have to make her call me or text me to let me know that she got there.
Yeah.
I can just look and go, okay,
yeah,
she's there, cool.
Yep.
And not wonder if something if it's running behind, why she's not there, or where did she end up, all that kind of stuff. So, but I feel that's also part of that helicopter hovering a little bit, because it's one more thing where you're not letting go and letting them be, but I guess it's a little bit of both, because they're still able to do their thing, but you're just able to know that peace of mind.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry.
Yeah.
One of the things I often think about that's if I'd known, that's like little, well, no, they're not little things, they're big things, but at the time they're small things. But even, we've been in our house for almost 19 years this year.
Yeah.
19 years. I can't believe that. I mean,
yeah.
I've lived in this house longer than we lived in our parents' house growing up.
Yeah.
Which that seemed like an eternity, right? When I was 4, I think you were 6.
Yeah.
When we moved in the house my parents still live in.
Yes.
Which is amazing. And up until I was 18 and you were 18, we both moved out around the same time to go to the UW. So I've lived in this house now a year longer. No, actually more than that, because I was really only there for 14 years. So it doesn't feel like that when I compare the amount of time. But, one thing I'd often think about is, if 19 years ago I knew what was important now in our living situation, and when I was shopping for a house, when we were shopping for houses back then, would have looked for something totally, well, not totally different, but different. Yep, because Me too. And you've been in the same house almost the same amount of time.
We should have got a master bedroom on the main floor. That's what we should have done.
I don't have that feeling necessarily, but I see one thing you have that I wish we had was a basement.
Oh yes, for the kids.
For the kids, but 2, I also didn't know 19 years ago that I'd be running my business from my house.
Oh yeah.
Telecommuting wasn't even a thing then.
Yeah.
And I always thought we'd have.
I have to stop to tie my shoe.
Oh, no problem. I always thought that we'd have this. Our dream was to have this studio with different employees working on it underneath, and we'd just be commuting to work. Well, we had the commuting to work part in this really cool studio in Fremont, downtown Seattle. But what we pretty much found our days consisting of was driving in traffic for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And all I did was go from one computer at home to working on another computer at work, and then coming home and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, why are we paying for this space when all the people were using this 90% of the time is just us? Because it was starting to evolve to where clients weren't sitting in to watch edits. Instead, we were doing more and more virtual sessions. We were kind of ahead of the game back then.
Yeah.
But it also at the same time made it to where this just doesn't make sense. Why are we spending $5,000 a month just to have a place that we have to actually spend more time driving to,
Right.
spending gas on, and so eventually was it 4 years later? 4 years later, we shut down shop and gave it a go, working out of our own houses. And at the time, it was a tough adjustment. The kids were actually, Vanessa wasn't even born yet.
Oh.
Sophie was 2, and we were in the midst of working on our movie, Frayed. In fact, that's what we switched to. We started editing in the studio in Fremont and then continued it working from home. And it's been that way ever since. But, if I knew it was going to come to that, I would have definitely looked for a place that would have had a huge work area for myself, a big studio room. Mike had the benefit because he was in a condo, really small one. Then when he finally went to a house, we were already working out of our houses. So he could look for a place that had a basement that he could have all his edit stuff in. And he also is a collector of pinball machines and things like that. So needed room for that. But and then the girls' rooms. I remember when we, it's a 4-bedroom house, but the other bedrooms outside the master, we took probably 2 seconds to look at. Okay, that's the room. Didn't even think at all about whether the kids would grow up and wish they had a bigger room, or it was just a room. We didn't have kids obviously at the time, so all we were thinking of was what's good for us right now. Right. And that was great at the time, but then the little things that you just don't know. You think you know what you want to do or what's important, and then of course those things do change and evolve. But
funny, I was thinking about with the kids, there's so many things that we kind of learn after the fact, but one thing, you don't want to be nagging parents. And it's just so easy to become a nagging parent.
I know. Constantly
telling our kids to do something, or you brush your teeth?
Right.
You floss your teeth?
That's Jen's taking that role. In fact, we even had a talk in the beginning. She said, okay, when it comes to the dynamic, I'll be the bad cop. You could be the good cop, because we don't want to have 2 bad cops. There's got to be the one who's a little less. Jen definitely does more of the poking and prodding and the nagging and stuff, and I'm the one who does like the fun stuff, and, and it's a little less of that, but but you were saying it's a hard balance, right? Because if you don't say anything, you feel like you're just allowing the behavior to continue, but sometimes just nagging about it doesn't work either.
Right.
They just get tired of the noise,
and it might even make them more rebellious.
Right.
So finding ways to reward, so you don't have to ask the same questions. Because obviously, like, even with our kids in high school, they've been in school enough. They probably should know by now, like, homework done first before you go and do whatever fun.
Play games, watch TV, hang out.
We're trying to just instill all these habits and trying to find creative ways to do it. Because as soon as you keep nagging, it doesn't help the situation, and if anything,
it just creates more tension.
It hurts the relationship
right.
between a parent and a child. So, just trying to think of all the creative ways to do that. And we know that our kids love their phones, like they need their phones. Unfortunately, it's not just a luxury anymore. It's almost
a necessity. It's a necessity, but it's also a social necessity too. That even us as having some of that in our lives, it's different. We don't have it as integrated because we were already adults working when a lot of this stuff came out, and didn't have to grow up with it.
Now, one thing, of course, with the kids, their keys to the vehicle is definitely one thing you can use, because if they, let's say they commit to doing X, Y, and Z, and let's say they totally blow it. If you take away the car keys, now, of course, you have to do it for certain things, because, like, let's say for school, then they're forced to take the bus, and they would be humiliated after driving all the time to have to go and take the bus. That's just one example of what you can do, Now, of course, if you need them to drive to club volleyball, you don't want to make it worse for yourself. You might have to allow them to do that, right? But, I mean, we all know that our kids have something they want that, when they have to demonstrate X, Y, and Z, they get to keep that privilege.
Right.
And if they don't, they will lose that privilege. And so figuring out what that would be, and at the same time communicating it in a way it's like, I hope you make good choices, versus a tone of, you're going to blow it, you know.
Right.
So we definitely want our kids to know that we are always their biggest fans, for sure.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and the phone is definitely number one punishment when something hasn't been done or they do something they're not supposed to do. The phone privilege is probably the one that hits the hardest. I think everyone out there would agree, more than anything else, because even being grounded and not being able to drive somewhere, well, Vanessa doesn't drive yet, so it doesn't count to her. But even Sophie, it's like she could care a lot less than if she wasn't allowed to have her phone, for sure. And it's pretty funny. I think I've told you before. Vanessa has this running joke. Anytime we start to lecture Sophie or get on her about something she's done or should be doing, Vanessa will pipe in, take away her phone. Because she knows that that's her number one kryptonite. The one thing she can't be without.
Yep.
If it came down to it. And Vanessa knows it too. So she'll be the first one before we're even done talking. Take away her phone. From across the house, she'll be in the bathroom upstairs where she can't apparently hear us tell her to come downstairs to eat. We'll come down and put away the dishes, but somehow she can hear her sister getting chewed out and then pipes in yelling across the house, take away her phone. So
that's hilarious.
I don't know what it is. They definitely have selective hearing, because even like last night, remember we were talking?
Yeah.
We were talking about Vanessa, nothing bad, just little funny observations.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Vanessa from way up in the bathroom starts retorting back, and like, you can hear that? And we weren't even talking, we were actually talking pretty quiet. But something about when they hear their name, all of a sudden the radar hearing goes into amplified mode. And they can hear every single word. So, you know, we've talked to this a lot. Now that your kids are gone, it's just you and Dawn and Jasmine, the puppy. Yes. You know, it's not really a puppy anymore, right? She's what, 5 or?
She's 4. She'll be 5 in May.
And Vanessa, anytime there's a dog, a cute dog around, she gets all cuted out. And of course, first she said, can we get a puppy? And of course, we'll see. The old delay, the talk about it is, she's been asking nonstop for years now. Yep. But I know other parents face the same thing. I talk to them a lot, and they go, my dog's begging us to get a dog too. So
all you gotta do is lend you Jasmine for a couple weeks, and Vanessa has to do all the work. Feed the dog, pick up all the poop,
take her for walks
every day without being told, no reminders. Even if she went to bed late, she still has to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and feed the dog. I think that will help cure the daily asking.
So what you're saying is it's not that she's going to prove that she can do it. It's going to prove that she really doesn't want to do the work involved with having a puppy.
Because what if she has to go out with her friends? She wants to. It's like, well, you got to be home to feed the dog. I mean, you can't assume that mom and dad are going to cover if you say you want this. And it's like picking up the poop every day without being told, completely on your own. Yeah, you see what happens.
I know, and I have a feeling I know how that would probably go, knowing the track record. So she's watching this, say, Dad, take away his phone. but then there's that flip side that, you know, I know that all the fun stuff about having a dog is the stuff that you wish you could have, because that's the great part of having a dog, not just all chores and labor. And for that matter, it's the same discussion you have when you're talking about having kids, right? I know that me and Jen for a long time were going back and forth, you know, like, are you ready to have kids? You know, and I think there's a part of you always has a are we really ready? You know, because that's why I tell myself, like with a dog, I don't know if we're ready. We're so busy, we're traveling, a volleyball and this and that. You guys doing homework all the time, barely have time to get that done. Where are you gonna have time for a dog? But if you also listen to all your cons to having kids, you'd never have them either. Because in fact, Vanessa thinks she doesn't want to have kids because she thinks that all that happens is you get stressed out, you have to work all the time because they cost a lot of money, and you get out of shape after you have kids. And all she sees is all negative. And so she doesn't want to have kids at this point. Now, she's not even 15 yet, so I'm fine with her not being excited to jump on that. She will be 15 in like 2 more months.
But it does make you think about the examples around her, because you got to think.
True.
You want to be the example that actually inspires your kids to want to have kids someday.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't want them to rush to want to have kids, but you certainly don't want them to feel like they're just nothing. A bird, yeah, beasts of burden.
Yes.
I always have to mention when I get to this part. This is where we shot our. You saw my Chicago Bears rival?
Oh yeah,
it's right here, right here.
Oh, I recognize this area now.
We walked down this way. Me and Brian had our little talk about what do you do if a bear, attacks you, and then that's the tree over there that Mark is leaning against with his Cheetos and fake beard.
Yeah,
this is where it happens.
Yeah,
there's the power lines. Yeah. What's nice about this, what's actually great about this whole trail is that it looks like we're deep in the woods. But like when we had to do our shoot, we saw the haul gear in here. That's nice. It's just a little bit up. The street is just up around this hill here. So it's actually very convenient. So anyway, so lots of interesting stuff, but I enjoy my time with my sis because we talk on the phone probably lately it's like every day. But in normal circumstances, we probably talk a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy the fact that we still have a good ability to communicate regularly. And because I know I hear horror stories of people who can't stand their siblings or family feuds where they dread holidays because oh my gosh, I have to be around my sister's family. Stuff like that. So I'm glad we can still be able to do this stuff, and especially having you here during a time when this next month or two ahead, so unknown what's going to be like. But I'm optimistic that, especially with you here in the first week, it's going to make it go really well, and Dad's going to be on his feet in no time.
I'm so grateful we're at this point.
I know.
It was so scary.
There's some scary moments wondering, is he going to get out of there?
Yeah.
Is it going to be any resemblance of what he used to be?
Would he ever get off oxygen?
Yeah, would he ever get oxygen?
Big question.
And if he did, would he be able to walk around and
be
able to walk to Seahawks games again and go on trips with my mom? And those are the things that you do here. I've been hearing more and more stories about friends and family who, one is undergoing kidney dialysis and just found that out yesterday, and that's rough, especially at that age. So just the idea of even trying to go on a vacation or something is pretty much shoots that down. So that's can't underestimate how important health is. Not that we really still don't really know how Dad got this or why he got hit so hard and my mom didn't. But let's keep doing what we can. So
we'll be back in touch.
Yep. When we see my dad, I'll do a new video. When we see my dad and have him, you can hear his voice for the first time in almost a month. But it's a good start of the day. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be very exciting to see my dad. So we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.